Before any crown shone beneath the Persian sun, before any name was carved upon stone, there was only the land, silent, vast, waiting for someone to remember it. The first government of Iran was not born in a single day. It grew piece by piece, from the breath of rivers, the will of mountains, and the dreams of men and women who dared to call this mighty plateau their home.
They called this land by many names: Anshan, Arata, Elam, echoes rolling like thunder through millennia. Centuries before the Golden Kings and the Iron Warriors, small tribes tended their crops, their flocks, and their sacred fires, flames that were seen as eternal covenants between humankind and the divine. Fire, the oldest ally of humanity. Across the Iranian plateau, from the Zagros Mountains to the plains of Khuzestan, the discovery and mastery of fire became a ritual of survival. For those standing at the dawn of history, fire was not merely warmth, it was spirit, a messenger between human and sky. Somewhere near the valley of Susa, families gathered at dusk.
A woman struck two stones together. A small flame leapt forth between her palms, fragile yet eternal. She whispered a prayer. Her breath rose with the smoke, a prayer that would outlast empires. From such humble fires, communities were born, and from community, order. Authority arose not from victory, but from necessity, to guard the fields, to share the waters, to honor the ancestors. On the threshold of myth and reality, the first spark of leadership ignited within the human heart. The land shaped its people. The Zagros carved their endurance, and the rivers, Karun, Karkay, Dez, nurtured their wisdom. They learned that to rule the soil, one must first listen to it. Archaeologists would one day uncover traces of their homes, clay foundations, spiral-patterned pottery, symbols of unity and motherhood. Within these remnants murmured the idea of governance, councils of elders, priesthoods, and noble women who kept the sacred flame alive through endless winters. Before kings, it was women who ruled the hearth. In the earliest Iranian settlements, women were guardians of the seed and of the story. Their hands shaped the first vessels. Their voices preserved the memory of the ancestors. Through their decisions about soil and seed, they guided the destiny of each tribe. Findings from Susa and Tale Bakun show that women stood not in shadow, but in the center of civilization's rise. They owned lands, oversaw the grain, and led the rituals of the mother goddess, embodiments of balance between fertility and order. Through their devotion, the spiritual foundation of governance was born. For the endurance of a people relies not only on spears and walls, but on wisdom and compassion, gifts rooted in the hearts of Iran's first women. By the rivers of Khuzestan, clay became brick. Brick became temple. Temple became symbol. Symbol became law. The people built sanctuaries for Inshushinak, Kiririsha, and Pinakir, gods of justice, birth, and stars. Each temple stood beside the water, for water meant purity and continuity, the promise that all born of earth will return to glory. Through centuries, those sanctuaries grew into cities. Trade stations emerged. The banks of Karun glittered with eastern lapis and desert turquoise. Leadership shifted from communal elders to divine kingship, the belief that certain bloodlines were chosen to speak with the gods. And from that belief, the idea of kingship took form, not tyranny, but sacred stewardship. In the lands now known as Fars, a small realm called Anshan flourished. Its people were kin to the Elamites of Susa, traders, scribes, and founders of structured life. Susa had become the first jewel of Iranian civilization, a city of artisans and priests whose command reached across the plains. On their clay tablets, written in early Elamite symbols, they recorded harvests, vows, and decrees, the first bureaucracy in the land of Iran. When a society begins to count, a government is born. Each sign pressed upon wet clay was more than a number. It was power made eternal, memory made law. The temple became the throne of the people. The high priestess stood beside the high priest, a mirror of balance between woman and man. In their shared rituals, early Iranians discovered the secret that future kings would forget. A throne without balance will crumble. Offerings filled the temples: grain, oil, and small figurines of mothers and cattle. Each sacrifice renewed the covenant between heaven and earth, the truth that true sovereignty rises from harmony, not domination. From this harmony came structure, and from structure, law. The first order of rule in Iran was born not of war, but of cooperation, a merging of sacred duty with the necessity of life. Around 3200 BCE, marks became writing. Each symbol, triangle, cross, or curved line, held meaning for the scribes. To them, writing was sacred, a bridge between human thought and divine will. Among those scribes were women. Clay seals show female figures seated before tablets, braiding their hair as they recorded offerings. Knowledge was being guarded, not by sword, but by intellect. Writing unified society.
With it came calendar, tax, and the law of land, the pillars of Iran's first administration. In the Zagros Mountains, the tribes gathered at dawn. Their elders lifted bowls of water and fire toward the peaks. They swore to protect their herds, to honor the gods, and to heed the chosen elder, the first echo of kingship in Iran. That morning, in the mountain cold, the seed of sacred rule was planted. The chieftain was no longer a mere hunter. He had become the bridge between barren valley and fertile plain, between human will and divine command. From that oath, half legend, half truth, the lineage of Persian kings began. Stone by stone, the idea of kingship took root in the soil. The word Iran had not yet been spoken. Pars was still a dream. And yet, beneath those same stars, its spirit already pulsed. Civilization had found its melody, and within that melody beat two hearts, one of man, one of woman, woven together through time. From those first sacred fires, a single authority arose. The pillars of power were no longer only divine. They had become the foundation of a nation. The people who once lived by prayer now breathed by law. Susa began as a great sanctuary upon the skin of the earth. Its gates were covered with golden bricks, and on its walls were carved the battles of the gods. In the city squares, priests and priestesses governed. Every offering and donation was written on tablets. Not a step or glance was left to chance. Order itself was the way of life, and from that order, kings would rise. Wherever records exist, there is a state, and in Susa, the pen sat upon the throne. From the land of Anshan rose men who called themselves guardians of the earth, not kings. Their leadership was bound to a covenant with the people, but the ancient bond with heaven elevated them to servants of the gods. Thus was born the idea of divine kingship. The earliest rulers of Anshan may have held names like Puzur in Shushanak or Hupapa, but more important than their names was their mission, to preserve order and to guard the rivers and the sacred fire. And yet, beneath those same stars, its spirit already pulsed. Civilization had found its melody, and within that melody beat two hearts, one of man, one of woman, woven together through time. By then, the crown was no longer a symbol of ritual alone. It was the seal of responsibility. To wear it was to swear a pact with the gods. Beside every king stood a woman who granted him legitimacy. She was not merely a wife, but a partner in covenant. In the earliest Elamite inscriptions shine the names of high priestesses who oversaw offerings and the division of land. In the myths of old, the mother goddess Kirarisha was the source of royal heritage. Kings drew their right to rule from her. Thus, women did not stand behind veils, but at the gates of temples, the spiritual backbone of power. Without lifting a blade, they were the pillars of monarchy.
For every law born from a mother's heart endures, it does not rule by fear. Year after year, Susa transformed into a capital. From the shores of the Gulf to the heart of the plateau, caravans arrived. Stone from Luristan, gold from the east, timber from the south. Trade kept the lifeblood of royalty flowing.
Civilization lives as long as it creates art. In late ancient Elam, artists told the stories of gods and men upon painted pottery. Those designs were not decoration, they were a national language. Line and color became a hymn of unity. Among the patterns, the face of a sacred woman emerged again and again, symbol of earth, justice, and fertility. She was the eternal mother of Iran. Yet no civilization escapes the trials of nature or war. The ground trembled, rivers changed their course, enemies returned. Susa burned and was rebuilt again. Elam fell, but its name clung to the stones. Out of ruin came a greater treasure, experience. Perhaps the people learned that a state is not made of brick, but of an idea in the minds of those who still believe. From the ashes of Elam rose new dynasties, the Medes, the Persians, the Parthians, each inheriting that same faith in balance between woman and man, heaven and earth. What was once written in Susa would be echoed in Pasargadae and Persepolis. From the mothers of the first age to the kings of the future, one message flows through all of history. Justice and compassion are the eternal children of Iran. In a distant fire temple, a woman sat, seeing beyond her time. She gazed into a small flame reflected in a copper mirror and said, "So long as this fire remains in the hearts of the people, Iran will live." Thousands of years later, that same fire burns within every Iranian home, in the glow upon woven carpet, in the murmured prayers of winter nights, in the soul of wisdom itself. The mountain still stands, the river still flows, and the voice of the first woman still echoes through the stones of Susa. We were the beginning, not the margin. We were the keepers of light, not its shadow. And from within us, kingdoms took their form. This was the dawn of sovereignty, a rule born not of power, but of covenant, a realm shaped from fire and faith. In the dawn of kings, the voices of woman and man unite, and from their union, a civilization is born that will teach the world one name, Iran. From fire we rise, for our memory is made of light.